Coming up now in your spoiler-free wrestling news rundown, it was an important night for Bullet Club at Capitol Collision. The Best of the Super Juniors kicked off on Sunday, and we've also got the latest on Kota Ibushi's rift with New Japan management. Subscribe to Spoiler-Free Wrestling for all your wrestling news. New Japan Pro Wrestling presented Capitol Collision this weekend from Washington, D.C. in front of a crowd of about 2,000 fans. And it was a big night for Bullet Club on the show as well, especially in the main event and the semi-main event. It was in the semi-main event when Jay White and Hikuleo teamed up to take on Rocky Romero and Kazuchika Okada. It would be White who would pick up the victory for his team after delivering a Blade Runner to Romero. But then following the match, White and Hikuleo attacked Okada. But who would come out to make the save but Hikuleo's older brother Tanga Loa. Tanga Loa then yelled at his brother that you don't turn your back on family, but Hikuleo backed away and left the ring with White before a physical confrontation could ensue. I want to know what you guys think about what happened between Hikuleo and Tanga Loa at Capitol Collision. Do you think it's possible that the two brothers are going to square off at some point? Some people in the comments section recently still think this might be a swerve and Hikuleo will turn on Bullet Club. Or maybe Tanga Loa will turn on Tama Tonga and rejoin Bullet Club. Who knows what is going to happen? But I want to know what you think is going to happen between Tanga Loa and Hikuleo. And of course, then Tama Tonga is in the mix as well. He wasn't at the show, but he was active on Twitter during it. Up on your screen now are some of the things that he tweeted during the show. He just writes, "Damn little brother," and tags little brother Hikuleo. And he also said that he wants that U.S. title. This is another thing that Tama Tonga tweeted out during the show. So let me know in the comment section what is going to happen next between Tama Tonga, Tanga Loa, and their little brother Hikuleo, who is still in Bullet Club and has turned his back on the family. The main event of the evening was also a big moment for Bullet Club, as its newest member, Juice Robinson, won the IWGP United States Championship for a third time. Now, Hiroshi Tanahashi was defending the title in a four-way match against Juice, Jon Moxley, and Will Ospreay. It would be Juice picking up the pinfall on Ospreay to win the match, but the finish was not without a significant amount of controversy. After shoving the referee out of the way, Juice hit a low blow on Ospreay before giving him a torture rack into a sit-out slam. He got the 3 count on Ospreay after, but Ospreay's foot was clearly under the bottom rope. Much like Ospreay's controversial loss to Jon Moxley at Windy City Riot, Ospreay once again has a gripe with the referees here. Now, after the match, Juice cut a promo saying he was better than Moxley, Tanahashi, and Ospreay because he beat them all in the same night. As for what's next for Juice and the IWGP United States Championship, Juice is likely going to have to defend that title, possibly as soon as next month's Dominion event. Now, considering Tanahashi lost the title without taking the pinfall, one could argue that Juice versus Tanahashi is the next title match to be made here. Following the main event of Capitol Collision, Will Ospreay was fuming. He was quite upset with the officials in his backstage comments and on social media following the event. He wrote on Twitter, "Yo, can someone pass me Earl Hebner's contact details so he can host a training seminar on how to referee? Because clearly New Japan hires officials that don't know how to do their job." He also wrote, "At this rate, I'm going to ask New Japan for my release and go work for Pornhub. Least there, I'm meant to get screwed." Then later, also on social media, a referee on the crew posted a picture of the officiating team from New Japan's shows this weekend, and Ospreay posted what's up on your screen now, basically saying, "Screw all these guys." So Will Ospreay, not happy with what took place at Capitol Collision. One of the bigger matches at Capitol Collision saw Brody King take on Minoru Suzuki in what was a fantastic match that had a result some fans find pretty surprising, as Brody King defeated Minoru Suzuki. The finish of the match saw Suzuki try to go for his Gotch-style piledriver, King wouldn't let him get the move, however, and hit him with a series of lariats, followed by the Gonzo bomb for the 1-2-3. And on commentary, they noted that this was the biggest win of Brody King's career. Ian Riccaboni said that this victory over Minoru Suzuki puts Brody King on another level. And I have to agree, this is a huge win for Brody King and certainly moves him up the rankings in New Japan Pro Wrestling. What does this victory mean for Brody King? Are we going to see Brody King in the G1? Are we going to see him play a bigger role in New Japan Pro Wrestling in Japan now? I think the sky is the limit for Brody King in this promotion. I want to know what you have to say. How far can Brody King go in New Japan Pro Wrestling? And what does this big victory over Minoru Suzuki mean for him? Lio Rush also made his return to New Japan Pro Wrestling at Capital Collision. He has been out of action since the end of January this year after suffering a shoulder injury in the second round of PWG's Battle of Los Angeles. Now, he is from the area. He's from around the Washington area. He got a nice pop for returning home, and he put all of the junior heavyweight division on blast, saying he's not cleared to compete just yet, but he will be eventually. And he called out names like Robbie Eagles, Taiji Ishimori, and Hiromu Takahashi. So Lio Rush, he's still injured, but he's getting prepared to become a bigger part of New Japan's junior heavyweight division. Before we move on, let's just take a look at the other results from Capital Collision on Saturday night in Washington. The opening contest saw Carl Fredericks defeat Ren Narita, but then after the match, Fredericks was ambushed by QT Marshall in the factory. They, of course, are mad that Fredericks turned down their offer to join their school, and so QT Marshall took Fredericks out by hitting him with his gold watch after the match. We then saw Team Filthy, that's Tom Lawler, JR Kratos, the West Coast Wrecking Crew, and Danny Limelight, pick up a victory over Fred Rosser, the DKC, David Finlay, Yuya Uemura, and Tanga Loa. And it would be Danny Limelight getting the pinfall on the DKC with a tornado DDT. But then after the match, the babyfaces led by Fred Rosser got the better of the melee. And of course, on Sunday at the New Japan Strong tapings, Fred Rosser will challenge Tom Lawler for the Strong Openweight Championship with the stipulation that if Rosser doesn't win the title, he's gone from New Japan Strong for good. We also saw Chase Owens pick up a tainted victory over the Great Khan. Owens rolled up the United Empire member and then put his feet up on the ropes for extra leverage and got the pin. A bit of a hollow victory for Chase Owens, but he wasn't going to be the one member of Bullet Club to not get a victory on this night. We also saw TMDK, Jonah, Shane Haste, Bad Dude Tito, and the newest member, Mikey Nichols, defeated the United Empire team of Jeff Cobb, Aaron Hanari, and Aussie Open, and it would be Nichols picking up the victory on Fletcher to win the match for his team. And then after the match, it was made clear that Mikey Nichols has been added to the TMD group officially now. Also, after the match, Jonah and Jeff Cobb kept getting into each other's faces, perhaps setting up a big match between those two somewhere down the line. As we previously mentioned, Brody King defeated Minoru Suzuki, and in another big match on the show, Tomohiro Ishii defeated Eddie Kingston in a fantastic match. Eddie Kingston is really in his element when he wrestles on New Japan Pro Wrestling shows, and you could tell that this was a special match for him. But in the end, it would be Ishii who would pick up the victory after dropping Eddie Kingston on his head with a big brainbuster. So perhaps we will see a rematch of these two somewhere down the line. That would be excellent. And then in the final two matches on the show, as we previously mentioned, Jay White and Hikuleo defeated Okada and Rocky Romero. And in the main event, Juice Robinson won the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship for a third time, defeating Tanahashi, Will Ospreay, and Jon Moxley in a four-way match. And the following night, New Japan Pro Wrestling moved over to the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia for a set of Strong tapings. Of course, we won't give away what happened at the tapings. We will wait for those matches to air. But here are the matches that were advertised for the show. that will air on episodes of New Japan Strong at a later date. So Minoru Suzuki is scheduled to go one-on-one with Tony Deppen. Hiroshi Tanahashi will take on Chris Dickinson. This is kind of notable as Chris Dickinson had pulled out of recent shows over the last few weeks after some allegations came out against him. However, he was in Philadelphia on Sunday and did participate in this match against Tanahashi. In six-man tag team action, the DKC, Kevin Knight and Alex Coughlin would take on Team Filthy's JR Kratos, Jarrell Nelson, and Royce Isaacs. Killer Kross returns to New Japan Pro Wrestling. He'd take on Yuya Uemura. David Finlay would take on Team Filthy's Danny Limelight. And QT Marshall will go one-on-one with Carl Fredericks, and that comes one night after Marshall hit Fredericks with his gold watch at Capitol Collision. Jake Something is back in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He will take on Brody King, and Brody King will be riding high after that big victory over Minoru Suzuki a night earlier. Here's a match I'm interested in seeing later. Jeff Cobb takes on Willie Mack. Willie Mack in New Japan Pro Wrestling. We will also see the United Empire go up against TMDK again as the Great O'Con, Aaron Hanari, Kyle Fletcher, and Mark Davis take on Jonah, Bad Dude Tito, Shane Haste, and Mikey Nichols. Will Ospreay will take on Homicide in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Also, former Ring of Honor booker Delirious will be in action. He'll take on Arya Davari. In 10-man tag team action, we will see Tomohiro Ishii, Rocky Romero, Chuck Taylor, Mascara Dorada, and Ren Narita take on Bullet Club's Jay White, Juice Robinson, Carl Anderson, Doc Gallows, and Hikuleo. So Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows were at this set of tapings. They weren't in Capitol Collision, however, as they were scheduled at a set of tapings for Impact Wrestling that same night. And in the main event of the show, Fred Rosser will challenge Tom Lawler for the Strong Openweight Championship, and if Rosser is not able to defeat the champion, he must leave New Japan Strong forever. And then just a few hours later, after Capitol Collision ended, we got the Best of the Super Juniors Night 1 as action kicks off in the A block. So let's just run through a little of what happened on that show. It was very clear that the outsiders to New Japan Pro Wrestling, some of the wrestlers who haven't been around New Japan Pro Wrestling before or not in a while because of border restrictions, they did very well in their first matches. So the first match saw Ace Austin pick up a victory over Clark Connors. I thought this was a very interesting result here. Now, how well Ace Austin does in this tournament should be pretty interesting to see. Considering he is the Impact Wrestling X Division champion, you could argue that the better he does in this tournament, the more it says about New Japan Pro Wrestling's relationship with Impact. If Ace Austin does not do well in this tournament, it might show that New Japan doesn't value their relationship with Impact Wrestling very much. But Austin got off to a hot start here, defeating Clark Connors, and considering how well Connors has done on an episode of New Japan Strong as of late, I thought that was a very big victory for Ace Austin. And then in the second tournament match of the evening, we saw Alex Zane defeat Yoshinobu Kanemaru. So once again, we have someone in Alex Zane who, while he has wrestled in New Japan Strong, hasn't been a fixture in the junior heavyweight division in Japan like Kanemaru has, but Alex Zane picks up the victory. And then in the third tournament match of the evening, we had the newest member of the United Empire wrestling in his first ever Best of the Super Juniors, Francesco Akira. He defeated Sho. So right off the bat, Francesco Akira, Alex Zane, and Ace Austin, three guys just coming into the Best of the Super Juniors for the first time, picking up victories in the first three matches. Then in the semi-main event, we had mentioned in a previous video that Taguchi had promised to do, and I quote, no butt stuff during this tournament. However, as soon as the bell rang, Taguchi then attempted to do some butt stuff. He charged right at Takahashi, trying to deliver a hip attack. Takahashi avoided the hip attack. Taguchi came down crashing hard on the mat. Then afterwards, it seemed like Taguchi was maybe upset with himself over saying he was going to do no butt stuff. and then immediately doing butt stuff. And the match continued with similar shenanigans that included Taguchi hiding under the ring, but eventually it was Takahashi who would score the victory with a pinning combination. And so Takahashi picks up his first victory of the tournament. Then in the main event, it was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion Taiji Ishimori who would make Yo, the finalist from last year's tournament, tap out to the bone lock. And so after the match, Ishimori then cut a promo saying he's going to win the entire tournament as the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, and then afterwards he will reform the division in his own image. So the B block in the Best of the Super Juniors tournament will get going on Tuesday. A press conference was held introducing the competitors that will compete in B block. Master Wato didn't say much during his time on the podium, just said that he's going to win the Best of the Super Juniors. As for Robbie Eagles, he got up and said that there are 3 men in the tournament that he has never beaten before. Those are Wheeler Yuta, El Lindemann, and TJP. So Eagles says he knows he can beat the other 6, so he just has to beat those 3, in his opinion, to make it to the finals. Teton was interviewed, and he just said that Japan is a home away from home for him, and he's honored to be competing in the Best of the Super Juniors this year. The press conference continued. Bushi and Doki both got up and talked a little bit about how the tournament is important to them. El Desperado got up as well and said it was refreshing to be back to the old format for the tournament, but Doki then got up and got in the face of El Desperado, so those two had a bit of a face-to-face during the press conference. El Lindemann got up on the podium, and he talked about being turned down by the New Japan Dojo when he was younger, but now here he is in the Best of the Super Juniors. He said it's his dream to stand with his arm raised in the air in a New Japan ring and yell, "Let's have a gleet time," as he represents that new promotion. Wheeler Yuta then got up and talked about this being a dream come true for him to wrestle in the Best of the Super Juniors, but he is not treating the tournament like it is some sort of victory lap. He said that his new mentors from the Blackpool Combat Club, that's John Moxley, Bryan Danielson, and William Regal, they have unlocked a violent side inside of him that he didn't know he had. And what better way to test his new violent side out than in the Best of the Super Juniors? TJP got up on the podium and he brought a mask belonging to Mascara Dorada with him. And TJP told those in attendance that Mascara Dorada wasn't there because he's scared of him. And TJP said that he's going to bring Junior Heavyweight Gold and a Best of the Super Juniors victory back to the United Empire. He listed off all of his accomplishments. He said he's been an Impact X Division champion, a WWE Cruiserweight champion, and he is going to go after Master Wato and Taguchi's IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles as well. Then finally, the last person to get up there was Bullet Club's El Phantasmo, and much like his tag partner Taiji Ishimori had said at the A Block conference, Phantasmo said it's going to be an all Bullet Club final when he wrestles Ishimori in the finals of the tournament. So now let's quickly go over the lineup for Tuesday's show, which will be the opening night in action for the B block. We will see El Lindemann take on Doki. Bushi will go up against El Phantasmo. Robbie Eagles will take on Wheeler Yuta. In the semi-main event, we'll see Master Wato take on TJP, and in the main event, it will be Teton taking on El Desperado. Then on Wednesday, it's back to action in the A block, and we'll see Yo take on Clark Connors, as both of those two look to get in the win column for the first time in the tournament. Ace Austin will look to go for 2 in a row. He'll face Yoshinobu Kanemaru. Then we will see Alex Zane also try to go for 2 in a row, as he will take on Sho. And then in the semi-main event, we'll see if Taguchi goes back to using butt stuff as he takes on the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion Taiji Ishimori. And in the main event, Hiromu Takahashi will take on the newest member of the United Empire, Francesco Akira. In terms of Kota Ibushi updates, there's not much new to report other than Ibushi seems to have calmed down a little on Twitter. He's not tweeting as often as he used to. The last thing that he put out was on May 14th, and he just posted a tweet that translates to "Fight to the end, I won't give in to those guys." Kenny Omega also seemingly commented on Ibushi's situation. He tweeted out in Japanese, "The resurrection flame will burn again someday. Until then, everyone, let's do our best." So it is being reported that Gato is trying to smooth things over between Kota Ibushi and New Japan management. However, Ibushi feels like what he said is already enough that he can never return to New Japan Pro Wrestling. We will keep you updated on everything to do with Kota Ibushi. Just make sure that you are subscribed to Spoiler Free Wrestling. It was just confirmed this morning that Ric Flair is going to make his in-ring return to wrestle in one final match. That match will take place July 31st on the final night of StarCast 5 from the Nashville Fairgrounds in Nashville, Tennessee. This news was confirmed to ESPN this morning as Flair gave a statement to the outlet saying, "I'm going to walk that aisle one last time to prove once and for all that to be the man, you've got to beat the man." Now, in terms of who the 73-year-old is going to face on the show, it's not clear, but there are rumors that it will be Ric Flair and FTR teaming up together to take on the Rock and Roll Express and a partner of their choosing. So Ric Flair is going to return to the ring at 73 years of age later this summer. Before we release our next video on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, AEW will present an episode of Dynamite Wednesday night from the Farida Center in Houston, Texas. 5 matches and 2 segments have been announced for the show. Konosuke Takeshita will take on Hangman Page. In the women's tournament, we will see Britt Baker take on a Joker, so that's a wild card to be announced at the show. Samoa Joe will do the same thing. He'll take on a Joker or a wild card. Rey Fenix will take on Kyle O'Reilly. And then in a tournament semifinal match, Adam Cole will take on Jeff Hardy. That should be really good. And then the 2 segments, MJF is set to give Wardlow 10 lashes, and Chris Jericho and William Regal are set to have a face-to-face confrontation. And that's going to do it for this video, everyone. Make sure you're subscribed to Spoiler Free Wrestling for all your wrestling news.